program is brought to you by Newsworks in cooperation with the City of Eau Claire. This program is simulcast on WRFP-LP 101.9.
Okay, at 7 p.m. we'll call the meeting to order. Thank you for joining us for the April 2nd Planning Commission meeting tonight. We do attempt to conduct our operations in a relatively relaxed manner, but this is the way it goes. The city first makes their presentation to the Planning Commission, then the applicant is allowed to come forward and add anything that they would like to. At that point, then it is opened up to a public hearing, and you would fill out a yellow piece of paper that's located on the shelf in the back of the room, and then hand it to Ryan sitting at the front when you come forward. When you do want to speak, you want to introduce yourself with your name and your address. And if you have cell phones, please turn them to silent or off so they don't interrupt the meeting. And with that, we'll look at the first item on our agenda, which is a public hearing for recommendation, University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, a new residence hall.
Good evening. The University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire is proposing to construct a new residence hall on their upper campus located to the northeast of University Drive and northwest of the Towers residence halls. The project area is Zone P Public. Here's University Drive located here. Actually, Hilltop Circle and extends to the north up in this area here, and then the Towers dorms are located down in this area, right in this area right there. The residence hall will have a design capacity of 432 beds. That will be 6 stories in height. The residence hall has been included in the campus master plan that covers the period 2010 through 2030. Location of the building will require the removal of 71 parking stalls from the governor's parking lot, leaving 97 stalls in that particular lot. In addition, it'll require the removal of 4 tennis courts and a court area, and I have some aerial photos covering that. So again, this is University Drive here, and then Hilltop Circle. These would be the 4 tennis courts, and then the play area, and then 2 rows, aisles, 2 rows of parking would be removed. This row, and then this row right here. So that would be the project area. And then zoomed in a little bit. Again, this is University Drive located here, and then Hilltop Circle. So these would be the 4 tennis courts, the play area, and then this row of parking, and then this row of parking right here. This Towers dorms is located down to the south. This is the Hilltop Center, and then these are other residence halls that are located kind of on the periphery of the area. This is the topo of the area, again with Hilltop Circle going up this way, and then this would be the remainder of the parking lot located to the north. University Drive here. This shows the footprint of the residence hall itself. There would be some kind of minor storm drainage facilities located in this lawn area here, and then a more of a major area located down to this area down here. And then the landscaping plan for the residence hall. There's substantial landscaping that will be provided as part of the construction. To the northwest, this would be a lawn area located in here. This would be the main primary entrance to the north, which would be a patio and brick area that would enter onto the parking lot. There would be a small storm drainage area down in this area too, also a lawn area. Quite a bit of substantial landscaping along the south portion of the building here. Sidewalk located here, and then this would be that small storm water facility down in this area that would be heavily landscaped also. This is a artist rendering of the building taken looking towards the northwest, so this would be looking at the building kind of in this particular location right here. The zoning code does not provide specific parking standards for university projects. Rather, it states that because of the unique parking needs for this kind of a facility, the applicant needs to provide a parking study or analysis for the new building to demonstrate that the parking is accommodated. Information provided by the university that's included in your packet states that the construction of the residence hall is to address current housing shortages at the campus. It's not the result of additional enrollment increases. In recent years, the shortage of on-campus housing has been addressed by the rental of nearby hotel facilities. So the goal of the university is to try to provide housing for all its underclassmen at university facilities. So included in your packet is a letter from the university that states that all the residents living in campus housing that have a car are required to purchase a permit from the university for one of the upper campus parking lots or for the Bollinger lot, which is down on Stein Boulevard. If they don't purchase a permit, then they cannot have a vehicle while they're at campus. They add that there is available space within the upper campus lots or at Bollinger lot to accommodate the students. And then there's documentation included in your packet in terms of the availability of parking at those various lots. Regarding bicycle parking will be provided on the south side of the residence hall, and there'll be space provided for 80 bicycles. In addition, there's bicycle parking provided throughout the campus. Regarding traffic, the university states that they feel that the traffic impact will be negligible because of the number of residents. Vehicles allowed on the upper campus is limited to the number of spaces that are available in the upper campus lots. In addition, the residence hall will be, again, housing existing students, not new students. Our city engineering department has also done an assessment and concurs that the building will not adversely impact traffic flow, and that information is provided in the staff report that we included with you. Grading, storm drainage, public utilities, and transit are also addressed in the engineering report that's included in your packet. Staff recommends approval of the site plan conditioned on 4 items. One, that the engineering department, in terms of approval of the engineering department of the storm drainage plan and drainage calculations, any exterior lighting would be in conformance with the city's exterior lighting standards, fire department review of fire hydrant locations, and then any signs would be reviewed with permit. This will go on to the city council at their Monday meeting next week. That, if you have any questions.
Are there any questions for Pat? Commissioner Mitchell.
Thank you. In the engineer's report, there are a couple of places where it says that things are incorrectly labeled. Is that going to have a negative effect on things like public utilities and drainage? Or do they have to fix that before we approve this, or what?
Well, we'll want them to fix it so they connect to the proper lines. It won't impact the overall infrastructure, but we want the storm sewer going to the storm sewer and the sanitary sewer going to the sanitary sewer.
And so should that perhaps be a recommendation?
We would cover that in our grading and drainage approval. We usually, in those approvals, we'll have comments on other utilities where we see them, but we'll get it fixed.
Are there any other questions for Pat? Commissioner Mitchell?
This seems a little different from other site plans that we've seen in that it's almost all about parking and transportation, and there's not much description of the building itself. I see it has 432 beds, but how many, are they apartment style? Are they, do you want to let them answer that? Or?
Yes, there's representatives from the university here tonight. They can answer that.
Any other questions for Pat? I don't see any. Thank you. Would the applicant like to come forward?
Good evening. I'm Mike Rindo. I'm the Assistant Chancellor for Facilities and University Relations at UW-Eau Claire.
Good evening. Quincy Chapman, Director of Housing and Residence Life at the university. And in answer to your question about the style of the building, this is what we describe as a suite-style residence hall, which is sort of a hybrid between what would be considered a traditional double-loaded corridor, the dorms that we remember from back in the day, but it's not apartments. What a suite is it's a semi-private location where residents live together with a shared bathroom in a more private space, but kitchens are out in the common area spaces and are used primarily for community development and not for daily cooking. All of the students living in this residence hall will be on board plans in the Hilltop Center on campus. So we have two styles of suites to accommodate two different financial parameters. One which is less expensive, where students share double rooms inside a 4-person suite, and the other where students have single private bedrooms inside a 4-person suite.
Are there any questions for the applicant? I don't see any, but I have one. Is Horn Hall going to be torn down as part of this, or is that coming afterwards? Or did I misread that?
No, so our master plan calls for Horan to be replaced in the future. So
Okay.
that won't be part of this project. Our hope would be that down the road, because even with this building, we'll still have a housing shortfall, that we would replace Horan with a better building that would be connected to a new dining center. That would be pending state approval, and so we're in the process of applying for that state approval now. So Horan will be in use until another building may be approved by the state.
Okay. And how about Catherine Thomas and Putnam?
Catherine Thomas and Putnam are on a site that in our master plan calls for a science building replacement.
Okay.
Catherine Thomas and Putnam are our earliest residence halls. They were built in the mid-50s. They're not great candidates for renovation for two reasons. One is their small size, and the other is their infrastructure and ceiling heights don't allow for HVAC,
Okay.
good HVAC renovation. Their ceiling height would drop below code height if we were to do things like air conditioning or other updates.
Okay. But all of those dorms are all still in use at this point?
Correct, and they'll continue to be in use unless another building construction would be approved by the state.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Mitchell?
Do you typically have more students wanting to purchase a parking permit than you have permits to offer?
It depends upon the parking location. So for instance, Bollinger, which is our overflow lot, our parking office tells us experiences significant vacancy because it's off campus. And there are years where we have had more demand than parking and years where we have not. This is a year where we have not had more demand than space available.
Any other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Klinkhammer.
Where will the replacement athletic opportunities be put?
I think we're still evaluating that on campus. We're gathering feedback from students right now, but our intent is to move the lighting that was on the tennis courts inside that area to a significant number of tennis courts which are behind McPhee right now and go underutilized because they're not lit. So the intention is to light the courts back there and then to replace the basketball courts on upper campus that will be sitting on the site where the residence hall is now. So the intention is to replace those one for one.
Any other questions? I don't see any. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this issue? Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this issue? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, and I will be looking for a motion.
I move approval with staff recommendations. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda, public hearing for recommendation, the Eau Claire School District Montessori Charter School.
Good evening. The charter school is located on 400 Cameron Street. Here is an aerial photograph. They have two existing 5-stall parking lots, one on the west side of the school and one on the northeast side of the school. Here's a street view of where this existing west end of the 5-stall parking lot is with the street trees. Here's the existing conditions. And then the proposed 29-stall parking lot. The school is currently zoned P public. Attached in your packet is the site plans for the project. The site plan shows the existing school with 2 5-stall parking lots for a total of 10 stalls off the street. A new 29-stall parking lot is shown with a new 26-foot wide curb cut onto Cameron Street. This will be replacing the west parking lot. The new parking lot will be used for staff who are currently parked on the street around the school. The site plan does note that 4 existing street trees shown there will remain on the site. The school currently has 26 bicycle parking stalls. A sidewalk connection is shown on the site plan to Cameron Street. In your report is the engineering report. Staff would recommend approval of the request with the condition that the engineering approves the storm drainage and the drainage calculations. This item will be heard at the City Council meeting on April 9th. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Commissioner Seymour.
Thank you. Ryan, do you know how many staff members work at this school?
That I'm not aware of, but that would be a good question for the applicant.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any other questions? I don't see any. Is there anyone here from the school board?
Larry Sommerfeld, Director of Buildings and Grounds. Current staff numbers vary. Typically, we're around the 31 area. And then there's our volunteers throughout the day as well, parent volunteers.
Are there any questions for the applicant? I don't see any, thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this issue? Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this issue? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and I'd be looking for a motion.
I'll move approval.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Third item on the agenda, public hearing for recommendation, Eau Claire School District for McKinley Charter School to approve the site plan for an addition.
McKinley Charter School is located at 1266 McKinley Road. Here is the existing conditions for the site. And then the proposed addition with the demolition of the existing facility is shown there. This school is zoned public as well. Attached in your packet is the site plan and narrative for the project. There's actually an email narrative. The site plan shows a classroom and secured office addition of 10,752 square feet, with a portion of that at 7,500 approximately square feet to be demolished. The addition is next to existing classrooms to allow for phase development, and they can still occupy the existing space. The parking lot and playground area will be redone with the project. A pathway will be provided to the upper playing fields. This is a charter school for non-traditional high school students, with classes typically starting around 9 a.m., and they even offer evening classes. The site will retain the 30-stall parking lot on site. Currently, the school has 6 bicycle parking stalls. The site access is remaining in place at a 34-foot wide curb cut onto McKinley Road. The engineering report is attached in your packet. With this project, staff would recommend approval, again with the engineering approval of the stormwater drainage plan and the drainage calculations. And again, City Council will hear this staff report and site plan on April 9th meeting. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there, excuse me, are there any questions for Ryan? Commissioner Peterson?
The parking lot is remaining the same, all the construction is west of there.
Correct. They are losing a few stalls on this area. They will be losing these stalls right here, but these 30 stalls will remain intact.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for Ryan? I don't see any.
Larry Sommerfeld, Buildings and Grounds for the Eau Claire School District.
Do you have anything you'd like to add to the presentation?
No, I think it's covered it fairly well.
How big of a section of the original school is being demolished? That rectangle kind of in the
It's-
center?
Approximately 60% is being demolished. We're saving the existing gym, kitchen area, some mechanical spaces.
Okay. And recreating new classroom space?
Correct.
Okay.
It was a far better option of creating and tearing down the older portion than renovating the older portion of the building.
Very good. Are there any questions for the applicant? I don't see any. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this issue? Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this issue? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and I'd be looking for a motion.
Okay.
Oh, Commissioner Brenholm.
I'll move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, third item on the agenda for recommendation, Highclere Estates 2, Phase 2.
Real Land Surveying is requesting approval of the final plat for Phase 2 of Highclere Estates. The final plat includes 22 lots of single-family development. The preliminary plat for the overall subdivision was approved for 76 lots for single-family by the Plan Commission back in July. 54 of those lots were included in the final plat for Phase 1 that was approved in September of last year. This is the map back from the rezoning and the preliminary plat. So this shows the area that was covered in total by the preliminary plat with LaSalle Street, McKinley, and then 33rd Avenue located right here. This is the map of the preliminary plat, then again with LaSalle to the bottom here, McKinley Road going up to the north. And the first phase of the development was on the eastern side over in this area here, which shows up a little bit better here. Again, with LaSalle located here and McKinley. So the first phase was in this area here, going up to this section here. The preliminary plat that you're, or excuse me, the final plat that you're reviewing tonight then is this area that's shaded in yellow right here, which is about 17 acres in size. And then this is the copy of the final plat right here. All lots meet the design standards for the R1P district. Access to this is via the extension of McKinley Road that was dedicated as part of Phase 1. The street name of 33rd Avenue has been recommended by the Communications Center, which would be this portion here. This street, when extended further to the south, will connect with the existing 33rd Avenue, as I mentioned, which is right here.
Okay.
The areas in excess of 20% slope are listed on the plat and legally defined and labeled as non-buildable. And that would be these areas here and these areas here. All the lots have reasonable building pads for the new homes outside of the 20% slope areas. Utility easements that have been provided for the city of Eau Claire, XL Energy, AT&T, and Spectrum Television on the final plat. And the final plat is consistent with the preliminary plat that was approved by the Plan Commission. The development agreement for the street and utility construction will be handled at the council at their next meeting on Monday. We recommend approval of the final plat of the Phase 2 for Highclere, conditioned upon approval of the city engineer of the extension of 33rd Avenue across a small 20% slope area located right here. And that is per the requirements of the Chippewa Falls Urban Eau Claire Urban Sewer Service Area Plan. And then this will go to the City Council on their Tuesday meeting on April 10th. With that, if you have any questions.
Are there any questions for Pat? I don't see any. Thank you. Is the applicant here?
Hello, Adam Ashley with Ashley Construction, partnered with C&M on this project. It's an extension of what we brought through last fall. We've sold 18 of the 53 lots in the first phase, and it seems like there's good progress. We want to get our ducks in a row for phase 2.
Are there any questions for the applicant? I don't see any, but I have a question for you. So the road's going to come up, it's going to curve around, and then it's going to go from McKinley to 33rd? Are you just going to have a street sign kind of in the middle there saying, start calling it something different?
No, I think it's, I'm not sure. John, do you know that?
If you don't mind me stepping in.
Yeah, go right ahead.
What we're going to ask them to do
Okay.
is here at the intersection,
Mm-hmm.
it would have made sense to have it right at the apex of the curve, but who would know? And so
Sure.
it's better to have it here where the street signs are.
Okay,
And this is where that steep slope is.
okay,
So it'd be hard to have, one house on one address and another on another.
sure.
We'll want it to happen at the intersection.
Okay, thank you. People may get confused as they're driving around there. Well, I thought I was on McKinley, but now look, I'm on 33rd, so,
Right.
very good. That was the only question I had. Are there any other questions for the applicant? I don't see any, thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this issue? Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this issue? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and I'd be looking for a motion. Commissioner Peterson.
I'll make a motion for approval with the acceptance of going across a 20% slope with the roadway.
Very good. We have a motion?
I'll second that.
When we have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda for recommendation, a final condominium plat for Arbor Heights Condominium Townhomes 2.
This existing condominium plat development is on the corner of West MacArthur Avenue and Eldorado Boulevard. In your report, too, is the proposed condominium plat with 6 units. Each unit is for individual buildings. This is the current condominium plat, which is hard to see. I found a copy of this afternoon. Right now, each individual unit is a condo, and now they're proposing to do individual buildings.
Can you zoom out a little bit on the one that
sorry.
you just put there?
There you go. Everyday Surveying and Engineering is requesting approval of the final plat, condominium plat. Attached is in your report is the final condo plat. The property is existing 3 two-story townhomes. The master plan shows additional 3 more townhome buildings. The existing condo plat is per unit for individual ownership. The change would be to change it from per unit to each building being owned by the same person. Currently, though, all the buildings are owned by the same person. They just sold the last one on the end unit, I believe, last year. Removal instrument has been filed for the existing condo plat and is being reviewed by the city attorney. The parcel will remain the same at 1.89 acres. The surveying of the condo plat has been reviewed by the city surveyor. We would recommend approval of the request, and this will be heard at the Tuesday city council meeting next week on April 10th. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Ryan? Commissioner Peterson?
When construction takes place after this, if this gets approved, will they have to come back with building and parking, et cetera, et cetera?
Correct.
For our review?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ryan? I don't see anything. Thank you. Is the applicant here? Would you like to come forward and add anything? No? Any questions for the applicant I don't see any. Thank you. This is a public hearing, so if anyone would like to come forward, I don't see anyone else in the audience. So I will close the public hearing, and I'd be looking for a motion.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, for recommendation of vacation of an alley.
Actually, John was going to handle this, so he's
Okay.
coming.
I take it that means you're on to the next.
Yep.
Sometimes it's easier to accomplish some of this business while everybody's here. So I apologize for that delay. Now, so let's do it this way. This is the map that's in your packet. And this is really a housekeeping measure. We're talking about the alley that's south of Hudson Street between 6th Street and the old Randall Park School.
Okay.
And maybe more clear would be on this aerial. This is the alley in question. We actually show the rest of it as having been vacated, but we can't find any formal record that did that.
Okay.
And in fact, the reason this came up is this property owner wanted to remodel the garage or rebuild it. I'm not quite sure what it was. We couldn't get the permit because it was in
The alleyway.
alley. And as you zoom in, you'll see there's actually a fence built right down the middle and the driveway is kind of split on it. And so as we approached these other property owners, they all thought it had been vacated.
Okay.
And it was probably part of what we thought had vacated this. So this is really a housekeeping measure to clean up what everybody thought had happened so that this guy can improve his garage, in so many words.
Okay. Are there any questions? Commissioner Peterson?
So if we vote no, you got a lot of work in front of you.
Well, let's talk about what a no vote really means. You are making a recommendation to the city council, so they could still overrule you if you chose to do that. And if you and they vote no, it just means this guy can't rebuild his garage. So no, it wouldn't cost me a lot of extra work.
Commissioner Granholm?
With
Granlund. God.
the fact that it appears that the alley has gone away from the school site, but that the adjacent parcel is actually built to the center line of where the alley had been, is that of any concern with the owner of the school site, that the boundary, in fact, is sort of already been conceded? Because that, I checked the GIS system on the internet, and the site parcel boundary for the school goes to where the red line is for that
Yes.
building, where if that was vacated, and there appears on the GIS system that it's part of the parcel, that's a concession from the parcel of the schoolhouse lot, correct? Or it's all just going to be cleaned up and everyone's happy?
In this case, in a formal vacation, yeah, it would go half and half because this was all part of one plat. If they'd been different plats, it'd be a different story. It looks like that's how it's being used, What I don't know is, at the same time we thought this had been vacated, sometimes property owners will have deals back and forth where they, for $1 amongst themselves, that may have happened then and not caught up to our records. Hard to say what happened then. But yeah, with this formal action, this red line would revert to the middle.
Commissioner Klinkhammer.
Well, whose building is that in the corner then?
This building?
Yeah.
It's the garage. The way I read the aerial, you can kind of see the tire tracks coming up to it. So I believe it's a garage for this parcel. One of the things with our aerials, don't be too confused by where the roof is, because these aerials are taken from a plane that's 3,000 feet in the air. And if they're not directly over the structure, and see, like here, you can see part of, well, you can see the wall of the building. So below that roof line is actually, the ground level is right there. And all these pictures get mosaicked together. So that's why you will never see us purport that that is exactly where the right-of-way line is compared to a building. If we could see the bottom of the building like there, we're fairly confident, but you can't always see that.
Okay.
Long answer for.
Any other questions? I don't see any, thank you.
I apologize for being late.
No, not a problem. Okay, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this issue? I don't see anyone. So we'll close the public hearing. And I'd be looking for a motion.
I move approval.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
And a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda for discussion and direction, update of the bicycle and pedestrian plan.
We wanted to take just a couple of minutes tonight to give the Plan Commission a little update in terms of the work that we've been doing on the bicycle and pedestrian plan. Since this is an element of the city's comprehensive plan, and at some point in the future, we would be coming to you with as part of a public hearing to consider basically updating the current version that we have on file, and then it would go on to the City Council. The current bicycle and pedestrian plan was prepared and adopted back in 2010. And with the adoption of the update of the comprehensive plan in 2015, there were a number of things that were recommended in the 2015 comprehensive plan, plus a number of changes and improvements that have occurred within the city over the last 8 years, that we felt that it was time that we started to look at updating the bicycle and pedestrian plan. Just a couple, and we did include a draft of the plan in your packet. The staff from the planning department and the engineering department have been working on this for the last 9 to 10 months or so, and we presented this to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee back about 2 weeks ago, gave them an overview, and then they're going to be reviewing and commenting on it at their April meeting, and maybe that'll move on into their May meeting. I'm not quite sure what the time frame will be. It depends on the different input and comments that they have on that. But what we found, and it's listed within the plan here, is that there have been a lot of changes that have occurred over the last 8 years. And we have listed within the plan about 3 different pages worth of things that have happened, including extensions of different trail systems. And we have listed probably about 12 different sections of trail that have been added since 2010, ranging from the extension of the most recently the Cannery District over on the West Bank and the High Bridge, but also sections of the trail such as along Melby Street back a couple of years ago. and we're looking at extensions of trails on Highway 37 this summer that'll go from Short Street all the way up to Claremont Avenue. So there's been a number of changes that have been made. There's been some changes in the zoning ordinance that the Plan Commission has recommended over the years in terms of requiring the bicycle parking for new site plans, looking at pedestrian circulation standards when we're looking at site plans, designation of Eau Claire as a bicycle-friendly community, designation of the university as a bicycle-friendly university, and they've adopted a bicycle plan themselves. So a lot of different things have happened over the course of the last 8 years that have prompted us to do this. With the comprehensive plan, there's 2 specific goals that are identified in the comprehensive plan that really are kind of key for the update of this. One relates to pedestrians and one relates to bicycles. The first one is improve the pedestrian connections to create a continuous and seamless pedestrian system and enhance the pedestrian environment to create a more walkable community. And then the second one is continue to build a connected bicycle route and trail network that is a viable, convenient, and safe and encourages both utilitarian and recreational biking. So based on these 2 recommendations or goals within the comprehensive plan, this is kind of what we used as our basis for the update of this particular plan. In addition, the comp plan had much more of a neighborhood focus this time around in terms of trying to make neighborhoods more walkable, make them more inviting for people to live in. Also, direction in terms of more of a healthy communities focus, trying to get people out more, doing things, not only for recreation, but to possibly encourage them to use walking or bicycling as a means of transportation to get to work or to church or wherever they might be going. And also encourage more sustainable modes of traffic too. That was also another big emphasis within our 2015 comprehensive plan. So with that, that's kind of the basis for the update that we've been working on. We've worked on a number of different avenues of public input over the last 9 months or so. Back starting during Bike Week last summer in June, we held 2 open houses to try to get input on kind of an earlier draft of the plan. And then in the fall of last year, we posted the earlier draft of the plan on our city internet site. And then we got real good media coverage from Volume 1, and they ran a couple articles on the update of the bike plan. And we got 40 to 50 responses from the community in terms of different suggestions, comments, and those types of things. So with those comments, and then also getting comments from BPAC during that time, we put together this draft, then, as I mentioned, that we presented to BPAC about 2 weeks ago. The recommendations within the plan come into 4 different categories. One relates to planning and engineering primarily relates to where we need to make physical improvements in the environment in terms of the where we see pedestrian gaps in our sidewalk and trail system, where we see where we need to continue to improve and expand upon our bike route system within the city. So that kind of comes in that particular category. The next relates to education and encouragement. These would be activities or basically different types of things that either BPAC or the community can do to try to encourage people to get out and bike, encourage people to get out and walk, and those types of things. So there's a whole series of recommendations there. And then we get into a section regarding enforcement in terms of trying to enforce the different provisions that we have. One of the key recommendations there is, since within our downtown area we've been seeing more and more conflicts between pedestrians and bicyclists in the downtown area, where bicyclists are supposed to be out on the street rather than on the sidewalk. So we're taking a look at, since we did update those provisions last year, is this spring and summer we'll be looking at providing some additional some different things to encourage the bicyclists to stay on the streets, and that'll include some stenciling on the sidewalks to indicate that they need to walk their bicycle, Also some signage to indicate that they need to walk their bicycle or that skateboarding is not allowed. And then we'll be putting some sharrows on the streets to help reinforce the motorists that the bicyclists should be out on the street also. And then the last section of the update is a section where we've identified 27 areas within the city that as we go forward and look at reconstructing streets within those areas, that we need to take a particular look at there's certain issues related to either pedestrians or certain issues related to bicyclists. So we've identified those areas in terms of that we should take a look at that when we get involved with reconstruction of streets. One example there would be Jeffers Road, and we talked a little bit about that at previous meetings when we had the plat for Camden Place in terms of the residential development that's starting to occur up in that area, the development of Northwest Community Park, and then we have the development of the Jeffers Road ball fields up there. So we see some issues related to walkability, bicycling, and those types of things. So we've identified that in the plan. So with that, I didn't want to go through any recommendations or on a page-by-page basis. I guess I wanted to let you know what's going on. If you had any questions or comments at this point in time. Otherwise, you will be seeing this again probably in about 2 to 3 months or so.
Are there any questions for Pat? Commissioner Mitchell.
Thank you. I don't really have a question, but I did read it through, and I have a number of things that I would like to have more discussion about or have some things to say about. And I know we don't really, I don't want to do that when it comes for public hearing, because by that time, we like it to be pretty well set. So
right.
I'd like the Plan Commission, whoever they might be, to have another discussion about this before it comes to a public hearing.
Okay. Maybe if you could, prior to when we schedule it with the Plan Commission, if you could give me an idea of some of the areas that you'd like to talk about, and we can maybe address those in a staff memo or something ahead of time. And then that would be helpful also when we take this to BPAC in terms of getting your feedback for them also. So we'll maybe try to do that fairly soon then.
Commissioner Klinkhammer.
If I have a burning need to have this question answered, I'll call.
Okay. Anyone else have any other questions for Pat? I don't see any.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it a burning question or is it not a burning question? Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is code compliance items.
Yeah, I've got one.
Commissioner Brenholz.
Yeah, on 3202 Seymour Road, there's a structure, it's the corner of Seymour and Brookline, and sometime last summer, fall, the zoning review board gave an easement for them to do improvements on that. There's been building materials sitting out in front of that since that time, probably, and it looks like heck, and it's right on Seymour Road, so. 3202 Seymour. Thanks.
Anything else on code compliance? I have one. It's an oldie but a goodie. The house on Eddy Street that they cut it through the driveway thing, and then they've been just parking on the grass. They think they've outsmarted us because now they're pulling their car way up close to the boat that is actually behind their garage, but they're still pulling it up from the street and using their grass as a driveway.
My understanding that we have cited them already.
Yep. I think John Gettinger had emailed me and said that they were given kind of another ticket, and then someone talked to them, and they said, oh, they promised not to do it, and that lasted about 2 weeks, and now here it is again. And so they just need a little reminder. Anything else on code compliance? Any future agenda items? Any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, I call us adjourned.
This program was brought to you by a cooperation between Newsworks and the City of Eau Claire. A transcript of this meeting is available for the hearing impaired. It will be available within 7 days of this telecast. Call 715-839-4912 or TDD 715-839-1689 or write Eau Claire City Clerk, P.O. Box 5148, Eau Claire, Wisconsin 54702-5148. Newsworks is made possible by continuing community support. If you would like to volunteer or make a donation, please contact us via phone at 715-839-5067 or online at valleymediaworks.org.